Today we're going to talk about something that's running in the background of your life every single day. It's like a hidden operating system, but it's not code. It's the incredible and kind of invisible legacy of ancient Greece. So let's start with the big question, a real what if. What if ancient Greece just never existed? Like poof, gone. All those myths, the philosophers, the city-states, none of it ever happened. Now you might think, okay, so what? That's ancient history. But here's the crazy part. The answer would totally change your world. I mean, your wedding, that coffee you're drinking, even the stars you look at in the sky. They'd all be different. And these connections? They're hiding in plain sight. You know that song you always hear at weddings, the classic one? Well, that comes from an opera, which was based on Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, a play set, you guessed it, in ancient Greece. Okay, how about this one? Your morning coffee? That famous Starbucks logo? Yeah, that's a siren, from Homer's Odyssey, the creature whose singing was so irresistible it lured sailors to crash on the rocks. Kind of fitting for a coffee that's hard to resist, right? It's even in a deck of cards you might have lying around. Next time you play, take a look at the King of Clubs. That's not just some random king. That's Alexander the Great, the guy who basically spread Greek culture all over the ancient world. And it goes way deeper into things that are absolutely vital. When a doctor takes an oath to do no harm, they're reciting the Hippocratic Oath. Named for who? Hippocrates, the ancient Greek dude they call the father of Western medicine. This whole thing even goes beyond our world. Literally, look up at the night sky. Orion, Andromeda, Leo, all those constellations? We're basically just reading a star map that the ancient Greeks drew for us, filled with their heroes and myths. So, okay, a song, a logo, a card, an oath, the stars, these are all cool examples for sure. But honestly, they're just the tip of the iceberg. They're just fragments of something so much bigger. Because when you put all these fragments together, they form a complete picture. More than that, they form, like we said at the start, an entire intellectual operating system for the Western world. So to really get this operating system, we've got to look at the source code, right? And the best place to do that is inside this famous painting, the School of Athens. This is where we meet the programmers. Seriously, this painting is like the intellectual Avengers of the ancient world. You've got the big two, Plato and Aristotle, right in the middle. Over there, you've got their teacher, Socrates, arguing with someone. And then you've got all these other heavy hitters. Pythagoras, yep, that Pythagoras, Democritus, who came up with the idea of atoms, the whole crew is here. And these guys weren't just sitting around thinking deep thoughts. What they did was revolutionary. Before them, all the answers came from the gods or from a king. But they said, no, wait a minute, we can figure things out using logic and by actually looking at the world. That was a game changer. It's the foundation for, well, pretty much all modern knowledge. You can see this handoff really clearly with the gods. The Romans basically took the whole Greek pantheon and just gave them new names. So the Greek god Zeus became the Roman god Jupiter. Ares became Mars. Aphrodite became Venus. And where do we see those names today? Yep, our solar system. Okay, so how did a bunch of ideas from thousands of years ago end up on our coffee cups and in our governments? Well, it's like a giant historical domino effect, one piece knocking over the next and the next, all starting in Greece. It's this incredible unbroken chain. First, you've got the foundation, ancient Greece and Rome. Then, for a long time, those ideas kind of go dormant. But then, bam, the Renaissance happens and they get rediscovered. That sparks the Enlightenment, this explosion of reason and science. And that lays the groundwork for our modern world, for things like democracy and the rule of law. And you really can't overstate that connection. Without Greece and Rome, you just don't get a Renaissance. I mean, the word Renaissance literally means rebirth. A rebirth of what? A rebirth of these classical ideas. It was totally intentional. And that chain of dominoes leads right to our front door. Think about how many of our societies are run. A jury of your peers? Having two houses in a legislature like a Senate and a House? The whole idea of representative democracy? All of these concepts have their DNA, their earliest versions, in the political experiments of the Greeks and Romans. So let's zoom out for a second. We've seen the little fragments in our daily lives, we've met the thinkers who wrote the code, and we followed the journey through history. When you put it all together, what you get is the enduring legacy of Greece. It's not just about old statues and temples, it's about a set of core values.
You can boil this whole blueprint down to 4 massive ideas, 4 pillars. First, science, the idea that we should understand the world by looking at it, not just by telling stories. Second, reason, the belief that we can use logic to figure things out, that we don't just have to take someone's word for it. Third, freedom, a crazy revolutionary idea in a world run by kings and emperors. And finally, the rule of law, the idea that everyone, even the person in charge, has to follow the same rules.
And that is the portrait. That's the complete picture we were talking about. It's an entire way of looking at the world, at knowledge, at how we live together. And it was all handed down to us by this surprisingly small group of people who lived thousands of years ago.
So this legacy isn't just locked away in a museum. It's alive. It's in our governments, it's in our science labs, it's in the way we argue and think. Which leaves us with one big question to chew on. These ancient ideas built our world, so what are we going to build with them?